morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 38 of our Parenting Questions Live. This is our weekly show where we answer your parenting questions, and sometimes you're not parenting questions. Sometimes we answer some of your kids' questions, and we got one today. It is a dull, dreary, wet day here in Drogheda on Wednesday, the 5th of December. It's December, so officially the Christmas mug has come out. So I hope you're all getting ready. Christmas tree isn't up yet. It's still a bit too early for me for the Christmas tree, but I can see lots and lots of trees up and around. So I hope you and your kids have been enjoying getting the Christmas tree ready, and that the panic hasn't kicked in too much about Christmas being literally just around the corner. So I suppose we have a few questions today, but before we started, I did want to say thank you so much to everyone for the thoughts and condolences that were sent on regarding my friends from last week and their losses. It was a tough week for them, so it's appreciated that people are keeping them in their thoughts. But we're here to talk about your parenting questions, so let's crack on with it. I've noticed recently that my 14-year-old daughter has been reducing the amount she eats at breakfast every morning. She says parts of the breakfast make her nauseous. I'm worried that it might turn into something bigger. Any advice on how to broach it with her? I suppose over all my years of working with teenagers, one of the big things I've found is that teenage girls, a lot of the time, will stop participating in sports and activities that they used to do and try and control their weight with their food. And that's fine if they've got a healthy diet, but a lot of them will cut out the foods that their body needs. They will start to maybe cut out breakfast, and there's a very simple thing. There's a reason why people say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's because our bodies go into starvation mode during the night, so it starts to I think after 5 hours or so starts to think, okay, there's no food coming, so I need to protect the organs. And that's why it's so important to have breakfast in the morning, that it can kickstart your metabolism for the day, and that your body starts to go, okay, it's all right, there's food coming in. But if we don't have breakfast until, say, 11 o'clock in the morning, for some people that could be 12, 13 hours without any food going into their system, which is not good. And if we think of our bodies as, similar to a car, what happens is if we don't put fuel in our car, it doesn't work properly, and that the internal mechanics start to break down and problems arise. Our bodies are no different. Our bodies need fuel to come in order for us to be able to walk, exercise, to concentrate. So it's so important that we start to look at our diets, and it's important that we look at our diets from the perspective of keeping ourselves healthy and why we do it, and not to control our weight. Unfortunately, we live in a weight-obsessed society where it's not okay to be skinny. It's not okay to be fat. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're battling between the two because you're going, I don't want to get fat, but I don't want to get too skinny. And it's, there's a trillion dollar and trillion euro businesses built up around making us feel not okay within ourselves. But if we think about our health, so I'm not saying that we should be skinny or we should be fat or we should be somewhere in the middle. But what I will say is we need to be healthy, because it has a direct impact on everything that we do. It has a direct impact on our taxes, on our health system, on our well-being. Forget everything else. Our mental well-being is impacted upon so much by our weight and our health. So it is important that we teach our children about healthy eating, and that we teach ourselves. We learn ourselves what is healthy eating, because we think we know, but we don't necessarily know. And it's important that we do educate ourselves, because, I keep saying it, we're only here for one life. It's important that we make the most of it as best as we can. So, try and give yourself the best opportunity to be healthy, to feel okay, but also to not become a burden on, the health service when it's within your control. So I would sit down with your daughter and say, okay, if you're finding that some foods are making you feel nauseous in the morning, we need to look at alternatives. And we're going to keep looking until we find alternatives that are going to work for you. But what we're not doing is getting into a stage where you don't have breakfast, because that will come. It will come. I know males, females who don't eat breakfast in the morning, and they'll give the most ridiculous excuse of, oh, I can't eat first thing in the morning. That's rubbish. Of course you can eat first thing in the morning. You've just gotten used to not eating in the morning. So it's important that you start to take responsibility for yourself. And the other thing I'd say for parents is, do look at yourself. Because a lot of parents I work with will say, oh, I grab a bit of breakfast after the kids have left. So your kids are seeing you not eating breakfast in the morning. So what if you can all sit down and have breakfast together, or that you yourself are having something and showing them that it's important that you eat in the morning? So sit down with her, try and come up with a bit of a plan about what she'd like to try, and let her come up with some of the things that she might like to try. And if she doesn't know, give her some suggestions. But it's important that she eats, because what will happen is, she's 14, so she's in school, hopefully. She's going to school. I can only imagine how hungry she is at 9:30, 10 o'clock. She must be starving. And then what happens is, you concentrate completely on your stomach and how hungry you are, and you lose concentration of what's happening in school. So it's going to start to impact on her ability to concentrate when she's in school. So it's really important that you take that responsibility, and also look at her exercise. Is she actually getting out and exercising? Because it's essential. Our bodies need exercise. So if she's not, well then maybe it's time for her to take up something. And let her pick what she wants, as long as it's active. And support her with it. So if she wants to join a gym, go, okay, grand, you can join a gym, but this is how we're going to make it work. So give it a try, but it's really important that she gets back to eating at breakfast time. Okay, next one. My sister and her partner every Christmas go crazy buying gifts for everyone, and end up putting themselves in a ton of debt each year. I've tried talking to her about it, but she just blows it off. The issue I have is that my kids are becoming more aware of the significant difference between what they get and what their cousins get. Is there anything I can do to manage this better, as it's stressing me out? It's a really difficult one, because your sister has to decide not to buy so many presents, and by the sounds of it, you've tried to speak to her about it, and she's not worried about going into debt. She's not worried about the impact that it has. So a part of you is going to have to let that go. That's her thing. And if she wants to go into debt buying those presents at Christmas, there's not a thing you can do about it. But maybe you can start to have a chat with your kids about what they get, and that, as you say, your kids are starting to become aware of the differences. So they're probably around, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, I can imagine. So you're going to have to sit down and talk to them about, look, this is how things work in this house. Santa only delivers X amount of presents to this house because this is the way the house setup is. And, it's a case of getting them to accept that that's just how life is in this house. And we have to be grateful for what we get, because there are people out there who don't have as much as we do. So you just have to live with it. And the reality is, we need to teach our kids that there's always going to be somebody who gets more, who has more, who is richer, who is better looking, who's a better singer, who's a better sports player. That's just life. There's always going to be somebody better. And we just need to get used to that. And not that we have to strive to have the best of everything or to be the richest in the world, but it's about being content with what we have. So teach them about contentment, that it's important that we like what we have, and then talk to them about, those people who don't have necessarily Christmas coming in. I saw an appeal recently for our own homeless, our old children's refuge, looking for gifts for children. So maybe you can get your kids to start focusing on other people as well, and to say, look, let's go and help other people, because that's just as fulfilling. Now, for a child, maybe not yet, but it will make a difference in the long run. And they'll start to see that, okay, maybe I don't have the best of the best, and maybe my cousin has the best of the best. That's okay. That's all right. You don't need to have everything. And it's all right for you to be able to just enjoy what you have and accept it. If it's really getting bad, maybe talk to your family as a whole and look at, okay, well, let's do a Christkindle. We do it in our own family, where we're not buying loads of presents for everybody. We're just getting presents for one child or two children or one adult, where it's not. What we've actually done is started to, get rid of the presents for the adults altogether, because we don't need to be buying stuff for each other. And maybe there can be a family agreement around, okay, well, let's do a Christkindle where we all get one child or two children, depending on how many kids there are, and then that we stop buying for the adults. So all of a sudden the amount of presents is cut down, and that everyone's only getting one present. You can't do anything about what Santa brings. That's just the way it is. And if your house happens to be one of those houses where Santa doesn't bring loads of presents, that's okay too. Your kids are going to survive. That's the other side of it. If they're turning around and saying, I hated being a child because Santa only brought me 4 or 5 presents, that's just life. That's just life. They need to deal with that. But they won't. Because as they get older, they'll mature and they'll understand that that's not the way life goes. So it's all right. Don't worry about them. And, that extends into as they get older and their friends are getting phones and you don't want to get a phone for your kid, or they're getting the best laptop and you don't want to get a laptop for your kids. Just because it seems like everybody else is doing it doesn't mean they are, and it doesn't mean you have to give into that pressure. We as parents need to take responsibility just for our kids. That's it. We don't need to take responsibility for anybody else's kids, what they get, what they don't get, just our own, and it needs to work for us. The chances are your sister is just setting herself up for a bit of a fall when the kids get older and they start looking for bigger things, and she'll have to, stump up and get them. And that's her that's going to have to deal with that. So it's just a bit of life. I do like the old Christmas mugs. Okay, last one. Hi Alan, I'm 8 years old and I'm a bit worried that I won't get any presents this year. I've got into trouble a few times in school and I do fight with my brother quite a lot. How can I make sure Santa doesn't forget me this year? Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, to be honest with you, how you make sure that Santa doesn't forget you any year is to take responsibility for yourself and not get into trouble, not get into fights with your brother. So if he's annoying you, just step away. Don't react to him. Just leave him to it. The other thing you can start to do is look at what are the extra little bits that I can start to do around the house. So can you start to help your mum clean up or your dad clean up, or maybe offer to hoover a car, or make sure your bedroom is tidy, make sure you're not getting into any fights with your brother. And try not to get into trouble in school, get your homework done. So look, you've just under 3 weeks to really work at it, to start to make sure that Santa, or to hope that Santa doesn't forget about you come Christmas Day, because you really have to start thinking about that all year round, because he is constantly watching. He is watching all the time. So make sure that you are trying your best to behave well, but do those extra things. Start to help mum and dad around the house. Offer to do the few little things. Even offer to clean your brother's bedroom if you want. Just try and do that extra little bit. Hopefully Santa won't forget you this year. And then remember it for next year, because you don't want to be in this situation come next year where you're going, Alan, I got into trouble again a lot this year in school, and myself and my brother both ended up in hospital because we were punching the head of each other. It's really important. It's really important that you take responsibility for yourself and what you do. That's it for today, folks. Bang on 15 minutes. We are getting close to the Christmas, which means we have, let me see, we have only 2 more Facebooks. And 2 more live sessions for you for the end of the year. That is crazy. I can't believe it. It's been really, really enjoyable doing these parenting questions. So keep them coming. I really enjoy it. Love the feedback, so I appreciate everyone who has contacted me to say that they've got something from it. Keep it coming. Keep giving us a rating on Facebook. What's the harm? What's the harm? Unless you're going to give us one, don't give us one. If you're going to give us one, don't bother. All right, guys. Until next week, have a good week and take care of yourselves. See you.